This is the Energizing India podcast.
Welcome to the Energizing India podcast. My name is Ravin Mirchandani, and on this show, we speak to key protagonists, opinion leaders, and decision makers in the EV industry in India to identify how to bring about faster adoption of electric vehicles in India. We've spoken to every element of the ecosystem so far: charge point operators, OEMs, regulators, grid operators, all sorts of people that want to participate in this sector, from software makers. And today we go back to the CPO sector and speak to one of the most interesting CPO startups out of South India. In fact, I don't think I can even call you a startup anymore because you are probably the biggest operator in South India. We speak to none other than Karthikeyan, the CEO, co-founder of Zeon Charging, should I say? Is that the full name of the company?
Yeah, the company is Zeon Electric Private Limited, and the brand is Zeon Charging.
Zeon Charging. Well, welcome to the show, Karthik.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for making so much time to be with us. Thank you for the drive. You've driven 1,000 kilometers to come all the way from Kerala here to our Energizing India studios. We're very, very grateful to you for having done that.
Yeah, it's been, so far it's been a little more than 1,000 kilometers, about 1,200 kilometers we've done so far. And monsoons and all that, it's quite beautiful.
So tell me about this. You decided to drive up in an electric vehicle. That's a leap of faith, almost an adventure. Did you have any issues along the way? You drove a BYD, I think, so a 400-kilometer range on one full charge up. How was the experience of coming here from Kerala?
Very pleasant. We had no issues whatsoever. There are enough and more charges along the way. I don't think it's a problem to be doing road trips, at least it's not a problem on the highways these days. And I think especially in our part of the country, the electrification is quite good. The highways are EV friendly and it's getting rapidly better.
Did you have any hair-raising moments of your state of charge coming down to something that is a little bit untenable?
We had one incident where we stayed overnight at a place called Davangere. We were hoping to charge overnight at the hotel. When we booked the hotel, they promised us to provide that facility. Unfortunately, we checked in a bit late than expected, and the person on the desk had changed, and the new guy had no clue about charging, so we couldn't get that. So we had to drive up to Hubli to get a charge. And since we did not plan for that, we reached the Hubli charger with about 4 kilometers left in the car.
Wow.
I don't think that car has ever seen that low a battery, but this is the first time for everything.
Excellent. So you sound a little bit like not only an EV enthusiast, Karthik, you sound like an EV nut, I'd say. That's why you even invested in the business. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you end up in the EV charging business? What's the background here?
Yeah, the background is like around 2012-13, I got influenced on environmental issues after watching the Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore. And ever since then, that has been playing in my mind. So we wanted to I was conscious of that fact, climate change and such. So at some point in time, there are 100 different ways to tackle climate change, right? And what I realized, one of that could be sustainable mobility. So it's just out of that passion. It had nothing to do with my business or investments or anything. So I was just keeping myself updated, reading a lot of stuff about that. And at some point in time, sustainable mobility caught my eye, and I was hooked to the electric vehicle revolution.
Fantastic. So what an incredible journey. 3 years in the making, you already are the largest South Indian charge point operator. You were saying, over 70 super fast charging stations, and that doesn't count the AC slow charging, which would probably be in the thousands now. Tell us how things are going. Tell us what makes you different. There's many South Indian charge point operators. The market is bubbling. Everybody has aspirations. What are you doing at Zeon that's going to make sure you are the biggest still 1,000 days from today, and growing?
I think to start with is our focus. The focus is to be a fast charge, rapid charge provider, a charge point operator for private electric vehicles that offers DC fast charges, not just any charge. It's going to be, our brand is going to be associated with providing DC fast charges that would enable or give freedom to the electric vehicle owner to drive wherever he chooses to. So in terms of our approach to this is from an electric vehicle owner's standpoint, which is what we are essentially. This is where we started from, right? So having driven the Mahindra E2O for 50,000 kilometers on my own, done a few thousand, or let's say another 30,000-40,000 on the MG, we understand the space as an electric vehicle owner slightly better, what an electric vehicle owner requires. So we approach the whole thing from that standpoint. So where would I want to stop for a charge if I'm driving an electric vehicle? There are 100 different places to put a charger, right? But where would an electric vehicle owner choose to go, where he wants to go? So that's very important. So in terms of the locations, we give it a lot of thought. We make sure that all the top-notch amenities are available in the places that we deploy. I think our team has become exceptionally good at executing things on the ground. It is one thing to have a huge capital. The other thing is to deploy that capital in a very sensible, very useful way, in a prudent way, to get things going on the ground. It is easier said than done because you're dealing with a lot of government entities, with government discoms. So it's, and several different property owners who are still not aware that electric vehicle adoption is already taking off. So it's a lot of persuasion, a lot of convincing, but our team has got the hang of it now.
So being a DC fast charge specialist, a DC charging station is an incredibly complex piece of kit and very difficult to ensure that it's available at every given time. No matter where you go in the world, from Norway through to Germany, you will find that a significant proportion, 25 to 50% of fast chargers can often be offline or unavailable for service due to many other reasons. You've got the grid, you've got the power electronics, you've got the telecom service provider, you've got the local environment. Everything has to work in a symphony in order for the customer to have a seamless experience. How do you address this, and what have you learned along the way in the many charging stations you put in to make sure that you provide what is in the end a Zeon reliability to the customers?
The first thing is, what we realize is that we are not tech guys, we are not engineers ourselves. So as a startup, we wanted to have a technology provided by us, by some of the best in the world. So we shortlisted a few top names in the field. We went with one. So the equipment part of it is very important. As you know very well, there's a lot of software play into it. The vehicle's got a software, the charger's got a software, and everything has to work in sync with your control systems. The customer's got a mobile application that has to link up to the charger. So it's quite a complex operation, not as simple as filling up petrol from a station. So the first thing is to do an excellent job on the electrical infrastructure where you're building. The second is to have technology provided by some of the best names in the game, to have equipment that has been tried and tested and that works well on the ground. The next thing is to have a capable maintenance team. So what we do is, everybody asks us, why are we not a pan-India player? Why are we not deployed in Maharashtra? Why are we not deployed in Gujarat, in Delhi? The answer is, we want to start from where our strength is, because when we deploy a charger, we should also have the capability to attend to that charger, to maintain that charger. If there's a breakdown, our team has to be there in time. So that is very important. So that's a very important factor in terms of reliability. So I think if we have built anything, the brand name has become synonymous with reliability today. So that is because we have a capable team, and once we want to spread in a geography, we make sure that we have a team that can attend to those chargers. Right? Once we build that team, build that capability, then building a charger around that happens. But until we have that, we build that capability, we will not be spreading to a geography.
So which geographies are you present in today within India? Which are the states?
The first state we are present in is in Tamil Nadu. So that is where we are from. So we are predominantly present there. Next is Kerala. Next is South Karnataka mainly. We are spreading gradually to northern parts of Karnataka. Apart from that, a few locations in Andhra and Telangana as well. Those numbers will be growing very soon.
So you are in the most organized, efficient part of India. Right? Tamil Nadu, fantastic roads, great infrastructure, great power. Kerala, disciplined, educated. Karnataka, the same. Very different from participating in some of the other parts of the country. What are the differences you have found, for example, between your Tamil Nadu business, Kerala, Karnataka? What are the subtleties that you're finding in the differences?
See, in terms of our capability to operate in other states, has happened way back in 2009 itself, where our textile business, we have operations in Gujarat, we have operation in Maharashtra, we have warehousing in Delhi, marketing teams there. So it is something that we have done before.
So, Karthik, I want to talk to you about two dichotomies in the EV sector in India. And the first one is, you've just talked about reliability, using the best technical capability in the world to put in a reliable world-class infrastructure. And yet on the other side, you have government funding, which is run by big PSUs, that is going, on a digital zero-sum 0-1 game to L1, lowest price bid, which always will be Chinese and exactly the opposite of what you are trying to put in place in terms of reliability. I'm not China bashing, I'm just saying that's the reality. If you're going to go for the cheapest piece of kit, no matter where it's from, it's not going to last and not going to be reliable. So your EV customers are going to have two very different experiences. One is come to Zeon and have reliability. And on the other side, you have a EV charging network that's going to be incredibly unreliable and destroy the very confidence of buyers in the market. How do we address that as a sector? Or how does that impact you as a private operator? Or do you just not care and you're going to barrel on anyway?
I think the optimistic way of looking at that is today charging infrastructure is required, not just to charge the vehicles themselves, but to reassure the customer there is an infrastructure for the new vehicle buyer, right? So what we had seen, at least in Kerala, is that when the government said they are going to put out chargers in every district capital and along the highways and all that, is that gave a lot of confidence, that gave a lot of headlines for people to read, and that's probably one of the reasons that state has a good adoption rate. But once the customers buy the cars, right? Like you said, some of these L1 bid charges are not going to work as expected. It requires constant upkeep and the interoperability issues and whatnot. So I think that creates an opportunity for us. It expands the addressable market for us, whereby in almost all of the areas that we are deployed in, our prices are the premium. We are not just the government charges or the PSU charges, but even amongst the private CPOs, our prices are the most expensive. And despite that, we are still seeing good uptake on the chargers.
Excellent. So the second dichotomy that I wanted to talk to you about was price and price regulation. So I love the fact that you've said that you charge a premium and that the demand is inelastic. People keep coming to you irrespective of the premium price. Yet when we speak to charge point operators around India, one of the big frustrations they have is that regulators in various states believe that they can put out a blanket notice on the maximum amount that a charge point operator can charge. And of course, many people get around it with many service fees and the likes. But the question I have for you is, we live in a deregulated environment, right? And yet we have regulators who think that they can continue to regulate. And I'm sure you face that in some of the markets that you're in. How do you address this dichotomy? Because you're buying the best infrastructure in the world. So, naturally you have to recover your money for putting it in there, and there's a cost to reliability. And yet there's sometimes price regulation that doesn't even allow you to cover the cost of your electricity. So how do you manage that kind of complex risk environment? And how do you sleep at night knowing that you're still going to get through this?
It's more of hope, I would say. So far, we have not seen any regulations that has come in to regulate prices, but nevertheless, there is talk of that. I hope it's not just for the good of the electric vehicle ecosystem or anything, but in general, I believe the free market needs to play itself out, be it any industry or be it any field. We've had part socialism, part free market for a long time in this country, right? And we have
another dichotomy.
True. And we have seen where that has taken us. I think now it's time that people realize that if private investment has to come in, and real entrepreneurship has to flourish, I think the regulators have to play their hand very carefully. Regulating an industry or a nascent budding business like a CPO, which is still not even started off yet. It's just some green shoots here and there, like us. And this country is going to need billions of dollars coming in to build the ecosystem to adopt to entirely electrify the mobility of the country, right? So it requires phenomenal amounts of capital, right? And if the regulators get this wrong, send the wrong signals, then I think this is a bus we are going to miss as well. So we've missed a lot of buses. I hope we don't miss this one.
I certainly hope not too.
Yeah.
We, one of the things that we love about the charge point sector in India is that it's the green shoots you talk about. It's young startups that are driven by passion for cleaner air in our cities, for better mobility, for safer charging experiences for the customers. And, we really, from our perspective, really do hope that this continues to be a startup private sector.
And it's just not about today's charging infrastructure. I think the charging infrastructure, the technology and the chargers of the future are going to be much more powerful. The vehicles that are going to come in are going to take much more power. And if you require these high power chargers like the 360 kilowatt, 250 kilowatt chargers, it is going to cost a lot of money. And I don't think it can be done with the taxpayers' money. It shouldn't be done with the taxpayers' money. It should be taxpayers' money should be prudently used elsewhere. This is a market economy where a free market has to
flourish.
Be led, flourish.
So we have the growth happening in two sections here. We've got the discoms now with public money, which is really taxpayers' money being used for the L1 choices, and then you've got companies such as yourselves, driven by passion, small startups with a big vision, great energy, great risk-taking capability. But when you look at all the sectors in India, whether you look at aviation, telecom, power, solar, any sector you want to choose, you see this agglomeration towards the Indian equivalent of the chaebol or the oligarchy, which is one or two companies end up dominating that sector. Whether you look at telecom, chemicals, anything you want, there's one or two big Indian family companies that end up dominating it. Typically, that takes the entrepreneurial zest out of the industry, and the industry slows down, and it's really cost-driven, right? Do you see that happening in our sector? And what's your prognosis 1,000 days forward, 3 years from now, in terms of how it will evolve?
I hope that doesn't happen with this industry for the good of all of us. Being a charge point operator, not just the big players or not just organized CPOs like us. So charge point operations is where it doesn't cost too much for the customer, even if you're charging a premium tariff. DC fast charging as a portion of electric vehicle charging is only about 20 to 30%. In a vehicle's lifetime, 70 to 80% of the charging happens at the customer's home, right? So it's only the 20 odd percent of the charging is going to be done on the highways or sometimes within the cities even, or customers who don't have a dedicated parking space. So for them, DC charging is going to be the option. So it's going to be a portion of the vehicle's charging, a smaller portion, but nevertheless, I think this space is fully democratized because a few players cannot control the space, I believe. Because if you take the telecom sector, you need to get spectrum from somebody. So there's a monopoly there. Unless you garner a big portion of that with huge amounts of money, you can have that. If you take fossil fuels, there is so it can be controlled by a few names. But I think once we start talking renewable energy, the way solar and wind is flourishing, I don't think that can be garnered by a few names. Large names will continue to make large investments, but even a smaller player can continue to make investments in that and thrive. Everybody, I believe, will have, once you do your job right, I think hopefully we'll have our place in the market.
So you mentioned renewable energy. And when you look at the evolution of clean mobility, renewable energy has a large part to play, not just in electric vehicle charging, but the evolution for long distance driving, whether it's buses or taxis or trucks, is going to be hydrogen. And so, you might have a fuel agnostic kind of charging station in the future where you pull in and you could get CNG, LNG, electric vehicle charge or hydrogen. Hydrogen is now coming in a big way in Northern Europe. 250 charging stations in Germany, going to be 400 by the end of next year, the same across Norway and Sweden. India is bet in a big way on hydrogen. What is the way for us forward? Where do you see India and the charge point operators, their play in hydrogen?
I think my take on hydrogen, hydrogen is going to be coming in the next 5 years, and it's happening for the last 30 years.
Good answer.
Right? So I think hydrogen, I'm not an engineer myself, so whatever comments I make could be just off the hand. I don't know too much about hydrogen, but what I read and what I hear about that is not a very hugely energy efficient way for cars. Definitely cars, I don't think, in my personal opinion, is going to flourish. Probably for larger vehicles, trucks, probably even train or something. Yeah, it could have a place. But then again, going back to our earlier point, is that if hydrogen happens to whatever limited extent it is possible, it will be controlled by a few names.
The molecule will be controlled.
Exactly. Because the production and distribution of hydrogen cannot be done by individuals, right? Just by smaller players. So I think that is where sometimes the auto OEMs are insistent upon or adamant about hydrogen, because they will continue to control that infrastructure, price that infrastructure to their advantage. Or for them, rather, the risk about electrification is that the whole space becomes democratized.
So we are the rebels in many ways in trying to take control.
Yeah, I like to think of myself
1947 all over again. It's brilliant.
True.
So I want to talk to you about capital utilization and funding. You've put in a lot of money, and this is all, I'm assuming, self-funded because you're an entrepreneur and you've taken the leap of faith and you've grown organically. As you've seen heat maps of use, you put in a charger there and it's recovering money. But what's the long-term plan? Do you have a funding journey? Are you going to seek an IPO, for example? Are you going to seek funding from a PE company to help you grow? Or are you quite happy with the pace that you've got? And as a good, solid South Indian company, you trust your own judgment and your own self-funded journey?
Yes. So far, we have been bootstrapped. All the capital has been from our own businesses. It's our own personal capital that we have invested. We can do that. We will keep doing that for some more time. We still have a lot more firepower in that sense. But I think now our ambitions for the CPO has evolved quite a bit since we started. So I think now our ambitions are clearly being a national operator, not just South India, not just confined to 2-3 states. So our ambitions are to be a pan-India player. So we have plans sketched out. We are going to need a lot more capital than we can bring in ourselves. So we are looking for a fundraise very soon. We have investment bankers advising us on that. So hopefully, let's see, we are in the market for funds. So we would be raising some amount of capital in the very short.
So you're a very, very vibrant company, and it's been a lot of fun to watch. And I'm sure when we get the opportunity to IPO, we'd be the ones who line up for some shares. I want to address this from the perspective of other vibrant companies such as yourselves. There are many, right? There's few operate in West India, in Gujarat, and some of the other parts of India, who all have national aspirations, who are all symbiotic today, because as an industry or as a sector, we need to grow. Yet we are all in our own pockets doing our own thing. I know a charge point operators federal organization has been formed recently. So do you think that coming together in a union of charge point operators to address industry issues is going to make a difference? Do you think that there is wherewithal for such a federation to create one voice?
Definitely. We discussed the earlier point of some regulations that are not well thought through. So because regulations and government policies are going to play a very large role in the evolution of this ecosystem. So as charge point operators, as charger manufacturers, I think we need to have a voice which can play an advisory role to the government and help shape the right policies to understand the predicaments of the players in the field. I think an association is definitely required that is strong and that has the ears of the government, and I hope such a federation would do. We are already part of that federation, so we hope that it will play a key role in forming policies that would enable the adoption very quickly, because this nation needs electric vehicle adoption very quickly, right? So unless government gets the policies right, it is going to be a lot more struggle. And if there are badly thought through policies, it could cost all of us a lot of capital, and the electric vehicle owner at the end of the day could be the sufferer.
Disenfranchised in many ways, yes.
Yeah.
So, it's the end of the day, and we've got 600 birds just outside our studio about to start the cacophony of celebrating the end of the evening and still being alive, just like all of us in business. So I want to put to you one last question, Karthik, and we ask this question to every talent that visits us on the show. And I apologize for the very frivolous nature of this question, but it has always a very direct answer, and it's a beautiful answer. And so I pose the question to you, and the question is this, Karthik: if you could be the Prime Minister of India for one day, just one day, and you could make any decision you wanted to enable faster adoption of EVs in India, what would that decision be?
Oh, that's a fast one. Got me. Right. I mean, I think of that a lot, and every time it is more particular to the issue that I'm thinking about. So if I had the power, I would have done this. I think about that a lot. I think as an electric vehicle owner, right, as somebody who's concerned about the future generations, I think sustainability would take the whatever decision as the power would give me to take. would revolve around sustainability. I think what is among that space, what has become close to my heart is the sustainable mobility movement. So I would look at whatever policy that would enable a quicker adoption, that would help us all lead a better life within the cities and for the larger country, for national security and such.
Excellent. Well, Karthik, thank you very much for coming all the way from Coimbatore, actually, in your car, electric car, to the Energizing in India Artemis Studios. It's been a pleasure to have you here. So much to learn from you, and a fantastic journey so far. We can't wait to drive ourselves now to go from Pune to Coimbatore and try the reverse journey in a car that can get that far. Thank you again, and look forward to seeing you at Summit later this year.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me on this podcast. It's been a pleasure.